Hey brother! Ben, like most people, I am still anxiously awaiting my letter from Hogwarts. I mean, at this point, I just have to assume that even magical owls have a hard time crossing the Atlantic Ocean. I know there's wizarding schools here in America, but I never traveled abroad when I went to college for the first time, and I feel like this would be a great opportunity. But yeah, I tied a letter requesting admission to a bird I found outside about a year ago, so feeling pretty good about my odds. Although I guess most students do have their name down since birth, and typically students get their letters by the time they're 11, and I'm almost 29, so yeah, you know what, I'm feeling pretty good about being the exception to that rule. But today we're going to discuss how other people typically get accepted into Hogwarts. Major magical artifacts seem to be some of the most fascinating items in all of the wizarding world. Like, everyone as a kid's entire future is basically decided by an old hat. Like, are we absolutely sure this is the best way to decide a child's fate? Like, should we be dividing them so young? Are we sure this isn't gonna start like, I don't know, 2 wars or something? Because I'm fairly certain it got Hermione wrong. And Harry. And Ron. And Crabbe. And Goyle. And Pettigrew. And Snape. And, I mean, what kind of sorting system works to the tune of, you should be in that house? Unless you don't feel like it. I mean, come on, have some conviction, hat. Actually, believe it or not, according to Pottermore, the sorting hat does have some conviction and claims to have never made a mistake. It actually is a pretty cool magical item. Despite Dumbledore saying the sword is the only known relic of Godric Gryffindor, the hat was his also, hence the connection between the sword and the hat. But it was also enchanted by all 4 founders and contains all of their collective intelligence and is extremely skilled at legilimency, which is how it determines which house you should be in. And even though it claims to have never made a mistake, there are a few cases where the hat has taken over 5 minutes to decide which house it should place somebody in, and these occasions are known as hat stalls. In fact, both Hermione and Neville were very close to creating a hat stall. The hat couldn't decide between Gryffindor or Ravenclaw for Hermione and Gryffindor or Hufflepuff for Neville. The crazy part about that is that Neville was asking to be in Hufflepuff because he was intimidated by Gryffindor's reputation, but obviously he was wrong about that. The only 2 hat stalls that we know of come from McGonagall and Peter Pettigrew. McGonagall, like Hermione, was between Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, and Pettigrew was between Slytherin and Gryffindor. Man, it really seems like when in doubt, the hat just goes for Gryffindor. Obvious bottom of the barrel. Slytherin for life. Honestly though, we are getting ahead of ourselves because worrying about what house you're going to be sorted into is only something that happens after you're accepted into the school. The question is, how do you get accepted into the school? Like, how could Harry have signed up? He was a baby and he didn't even know he was a wizard. Or, I mean, I guess maybe his parents could have signed him up like the moment he was born, but what about Muggleborns? What are they supposed to do? How are they getting their letters? The impression I got when I was reading through the books was that when a new witch or wizard was born, the wizarding world just sort of magically knew that they were there. Which seemed a little bit like a cop-out, but then, of course, you remember, oh, it is a book about magic, so maybe that just makes sense. Oddly, the answer is kind of yes and no. And what I mean is, wizards themselves don't specifically know whether a child is magical or not. I mean, if the parents were magical, they would certainly know what to look for, but what about Muggleborns? Well, the good news is that even if you're Muggleborn or if you're magic-born and your parents are just completely oblivious of your abilities, either way, you will still get your letter to Hogwarts. The acceptance is actually decided by 2 magical artifacts at the school working together, known as the Quill of Acceptance and the Book of Admittance. These 2 items are never mentioned in the books, but Pottermore has revealed to us how they work. But even with elaborate descriptions, they are still fairly mysterious magical objects. Because for one, acceptance and admittance kind of mean the same thing. I mean, just like opposite forms of the same thing. Both have to do with entry, but acceptance seems like welcomed, whereas admittance seems like allowed. But in any case, both artifacts are located in the castle, locked away in a tower never visited by students. The book is bound in dragonhide and the quill sits next to it in an empty ink pot. And how it works is that after a child is born, after it produces any sense of magical ability, the quill will hop to life and try and inscribe the name in the book. The quill is an augury feather, which typically repels ink and again sits in an empty ink pot, and yet is somehow able to write in an unknown silvery substance. But the catch is that the book must agree with the quill, meaning that if the book doesn't think that a proper amount of magical prowess has been displayed, it will snap shut and stop the quill from scribing the name until such a point has been reached. Neville is once again a great example of the book and quill disagreeing.
Why is it always me?
The moment Neville was born, the quill jumped to life and tried to write his name in the book, but the book snapped shut and wouldn't let his name be written down for 8 more years until Neville survived a fall that should have killed him. Much like the Sorting Hat, the book and quill are mistake-free, and because they have to agree with each other, have never let a squib into Hogwarts. As always though, new information seems to offer more questions than it answers. For example, the book kind of seems like it represents Slytherin in that it's a little more pure-minded about magical ability, like just being magical isn't enough, you have to be very magical. Whereas the quill seems to be more like Hufflepuff, just far more accepting of anybody. And then of course the Sorting Hat would represent Gryffindor, accepting of all but recognizes individual strengths. But if you have these 3 items that are all about sorting and getting students to the school, shouldn't there be a 4th? Shouldn't there be something for Ravenclaw? I mean, what did she contribute? The shifting stairs? Yes, that has to be it, right? First you have to convince the quill, then the book, then you get sorted by the Sorting Hat, but then before you can actually start attending the school, you gotta navigate the stairs. Ha! Fun fact, Ravenclaw actually did design the stairs in the school. Ah, it all makes sense. Or, I don't know, maybe I'm just overthinking things. Guys, thanks for watching. Ben, my question for you and everybody else is, what is your favorite magical artifact from the wizarding world of Harry Potter? And are there any other magical artifacts you'd like us to look into and or explain? Let us know in the towel section down below. These socks are amazing! Guys, thanks for watching. As always, please remember to like this video if you haven't already and subscribe so you don't miss any future Harry Potter action from us. If you want to see us explain the Veil, you can check out this video right here. And if you want to know about Dumbledore's secret Horcrux, you can check out this video right here. But Ben, that's all I've got for you today, man. I will see you in another life, brother.